In the final years of the 1920s, New York City transformed into a battlefield fought not with bullets, but with steel, concrete, ambition, and ego. During this time period, it seemed like every major corporation wanted to stake a claim in the skyline. Every wealthy industrialist wanted a monument that could outlive them. Several major newspapers breathlessly tracked the height of towers rising block by block into the Manhattan sky. New York was filled with workers balanced on narrow steel beams, hundreds of feet above the streets below. At the center of this race stood one extraordinary building, the Chrysler Building. Today it is celebrated as one of the most beautiful skyscrapers ever constructed, a shimmering Art Deco cathedral crowned in stainless steel. But the Chrysler Building was never meant to be merely beautiful. It was a declaration of power. It was meant to be a corporate advertisement, visible for miles. What many don't know is that it was a gamble, because its construction began during a time where the American economy was beginning to collapse. Its story is not only about architecture, but also capitalism, engineering, labor, celebrity culture, and the dangerous obsession with immortality. Nearly a century later, the Chrysler Building still captures imaginations because it represents something larger than itself. The moment America believed there was no limit to what it could build. Before skyscrapers dominated Manhattan, New York was a dense, crowded island which had nowhere to expand. Fortunately, because of the industrialization of late 19th century, the city was being transformed into an economic engine. A large influx of immigrants arrived in the city through Ellis Island. Factories expanded rapidly, and land values in Manhattan exploded. Now, everything seemed possible, and upward mobility was the only direction left. Several inventions made the vertical city possible. The first was the steel frame. Traditional masonry buildings could only rise so high before their own weight became unmanageable. Steel skeletons changed everything. Buildings no longer relied on thick stone walls for support. Steel is the premier choice for high-rise buildings primarily due to its unbeatable strength-to-weight ratio. This allows skyscrapers to support immense vertical loads while remaining relatively lightweight, minimizing stress on the foundation, so buildings could now be much higher than previously. The invention of the modern elevator was another breakthrough. When Elisha Otis demonstrated his safety elevator in the 1850s, he solved one of the greatest problems in urban architecture. Prior to this breakthrough, multi-story buildings were incredibly rare because no one was willing to or physically able to climb dozens of flights of stairs on a daily basis. Elisha Otis famously demonstrated his fail-safe elevator at the 1854 New York Crystal Palace exhibition by cutting the hoisting rope, cementing public trust in the technology. Suddenly, upper floors became desirable instead of inconvenient. The higher you were, the more prestigious your office became. By the early 20th century, New York developers understood a new reality. Height meant money. Skyscrapers became financial machines. Taller buildings meant more rentable office space, greater visibility, and increased prestige. Corporations began treating architecture as branding. The skyline itself became an advertisement. Then came the Roaring '20s. Wall Street boomed, jazz clubs flourished, automobiles transformed American culture, fortunes were made almost overnight. Manhattan entered an era of unprecedented speculation, and developers raced to construct towers that symbolize modernity, wealth, and technological supremacy. No industry embodied that energy more than the automobile business, and no businessman embodied it more completely than Walter P. Chrysler. Walter Percy Chrysler did not come from aristocracy. He was born in Kansas in 1875 and began his career as a railroad mechanic. He worked with engines, machinery, and tools long before he entered a boardroom. Unlike many industrial tycoons of his era, Chrysler understood machines from the inside out. That mechanical mindset helped him rise quickly through the automotive world. By the early 1900s, America's automobile industry was exploding. Chrysler gained a reputation as a brilliant industrial organizer, capable of rescuing struggling companies. He helped revive Buick before eventually founding the Chrysler Corporation in 1925. Within only a few years, Chrysler became one of the largest automobile manufacturers in the world. But Walter Chrysler wanted more than money. He wanted influence and power. In the 1920s, industrialists increasingly used architecture to shape public perception. Headquarters buildings became symbols of corporate power. Banks, insurance companies, and automobile firms all competed to dominate Manhattan's skyline. For Chrysler, the project became deeply personal. Unlike many corporate towers, the Chrysler Building was not technically owned by the corporation itself. Walter Chrysler financed much of it personally so he could leave it to his family. He was building something more than multiple office spaces. He was building a monument. Chrysler hired architect William Van Allen to design the building. He came up with a design that was bold and unconventional. You could say that it was futuristic and certainly was in line with the spirit of the machine age. This was a key hiring. William Van Allen was unlike the conservative architects who had dominated earlier skyscraper design. Educated in the Beaux-Arts tradition and influenced by European modernism, Van Allen believed architecture should embrace speed, machinery, and industrial elegance. The style that emerged became known as Art Deco. Art Deco rejected the heavy classical ornamentation of previous generations. Instead, it celebrated geometry, metallic surfaces, symmetry, and machine-age optimism. It fused luxury with industrial design. The Chrysler Building became the ultimate Art Deco skyscraper. Every detail reinforced the identity of Chrysler's automobile empire. The tower's famous gargoyles were modeled after Chrysler hood ornaments. Eagle sculptures projected dramatically from the upper floors like chrome mascots on a speeding car. Triangular windows and sweeping curves gave the crown a sense of motion, even when standing still. But the building's most revolutionary feature was its crown. Van Allen proposed covering the upper section in stainless steel, a daring decision at a time when the material was still relatively new in architecture. The reflective metal created a dazzling effect in sunlight, turning the building into a beacon visible across the city. The design was futuristic. Some critics loved it, others hated it, but nobody ignored it. Then the competition escalated. The late 1920s witnessed one of the strangest rivalries in architectural history. Developers were obsessed with constructing the tallest building on Earth. The Chrysler Building faced fierce competition from 40 Wall Street, backed by the Bank of Manhattan Company. Each project attempted to outdo the other through revised plans and secret height increases. Newspapers tracked the rivalry almost like a sporting event. For months, 40 Wall Street appeared poised to win. Then William Van Allen revealed his masterstroke. Hidden inside the Chrysler Building was a massive stainless steel spire constructed in secret. Rather than assembling it externally where competitors could observe the true height, workers built the sections inside the tower itself. On October 23, 1929, crews hoisted the spire through the roof and assembled it in just a few hours. The move stunned the world. Suddenly the Chrysler Building stood 1,046 feet tall, surpassing every structure on Earth. It was one of the greatest architectural surprises ever executed. But the victory would not last long. Only days later, the stock market crashed. America entered the Great Depression, and soon another rival emerged, the Empire State Building. Constructing the Chrysler Building required extraordinary coordination. The tower rose at astonishing speed. Workers completed roughly 4 floors per week, an incredible pace for the era. Thousands of laborers operated in carefully choreographed sequences involving steel deliveries, riveting crews, cranes, masonry teams, electricians, and elevator installers. At the heart of the structure stood its steel skeleton. Massive beams transferred the building's enormous weight downward into Manhattan's bedrock. Engineers designed the tower to withstand both gravity and wind loads, ensuring the building could flex slightly during storms without collapsing. Deep foundations anchored the structure below street level, while intricate bracing systems stabilized the upper floors. The construction process itself was dangerous. Ironworkers balanced on narrow beams hundreds of feet above the city with minimal safety equipment. Many belonged to immigrant communities or Native American Mohawk workers renowned for their fearlessness at high elevations. Historic photographs show men casually eating lunch while dangling above Manhattan. The images appear almost surreal today. Safety standards in the 1920s were dramatically different from modern regulations. Injuries were common. Fatal accidents occurred across skyscraper construction projects throughout the era. Yet workers continued climbing. For many laborers, these jobs represented rare opportunities during a rapidly changing economy. The Chrysler Building became a human achievement as much as an engineering one. Thousands of anonymous workers left pieces of themselves inside the tower. The Chrysler Building's crown remains one of the most recognizable architectural features ever created. Its shimmering arches were clad in a German stainless steel product known as Nyrosta steel. The material resisted corrosion while reflecting sunlight in constantly changing patterns. At dawn, the crown glows silver. At sunset, it burns gold. At night, illuminated windows transform it into a luminous beacon hovering above Manhattan. Using stainless steel at such a scale was revolutionary. Traditional skyscrapers relied heavily on stone or brick exteriors. Van Allen instead embraced industrial materials associated with modern manufacturing and automotive design. The result was both elegant and mechanical. The Crown looked less like a conventional building and more like a futuristic machine. Its triangular windows created dramatic visual rhythms, while layered setbacks complied with New York zoning laws requiring skyscrapers to step inward as they rose. These setbacks unintentionally enhanced the building's cinematic appearance. The Chrysler Building did not simply rise upward, it seemed to accelerate into the sky. While the exterior became legendary, the interior of the Chrysler Building was equally extravagant. Visitors entering the lobby encountered a vision of industrial luxury. Walls of exotic marble reflected warm amber lighting. Decorative metalwork covered doors and elevators. Massive murals celebrate transportation, industry, and modern progress. Artist Edward Trumbull created a spectacular ceiling mural depicting airplanes, factories, workers, and technological innovation. It was one of the largest murals in America at the time. The building treated commerce like mythology. Even practical elements became works of art. Elevators featured intricate wood veneers and metallic detailing. Lighting fixtures embraced geometric patterns. Every surface reinforced the aesthetics of speed and precision. The Chrysler Building was designed to overwhelm visitors emotionally. It projected confidence, optimism, power. There was even a public observation deck near the top, allowing tourists to gaze across New York from unprecedented heights. For a brief moment, visitors could stand above nearly every other structure on Earth. Then, the Depression changed everything. Remember to subscribe to the channel, and check out the links in the description for more useful information. The Chrysler Building officially opened in 1930. It arrived at the worst possible moment. Only months earlier, the stock market crash had shattered the illusion of endless prosperity. Business collapsed, banks failed, unemployment skyrocketed. Suddenly, skyscrapers no longer symbolized unstoppable growth. To many Americans, they became monuments to excess. Office vacancies surged throughout Manhattan. Developers struggled financially. The Empire State Building, completed shortly afterward, became so underoccupied that critics nicknamed it the Empty State Building. Yet the Chrysler Building endured, partly because of its beauty transcended economics. Even during national hardship, people looked upward at its shining crown and saw something extraordinary. The building represented the final burst of Jazz Age optimism before the world changed forever. Over time, the Chrysler Building evolved beyond architecture. It became a mythology. Filmmakers used it as a visual shorthand for New York itself. Its distinctive silhouette appeared in countless movies, television shows, posters, comics, and photographs. From Spider-Man to Men in Black, the tower repeatedly returned as a symbol of futuristic urban grandeur. Photographers loved the building because it transformed constantly under different lighting conditions. Fog wrapped around the crown dramatically. Sunlight reflected from the steel in dazzling patterns. Artists treated it almost like a living sculpture. The building also became associated with celebrity culture. Politicians, billionaires, actors, and tourists all viewed it as an essential New York landmark. Even people who knew little about architecture recognized its unmistakable profile. Unlike many corporate towers, the Chrysler Building inspired emotional attachment. People did not merely work there, they admired it. By the mid-20th century, architectural fashion shifted. Modernist glass towers replaced ornate Art Deco designs. Many older skyscrapers appeared outdated compared to sleek international-style office buildings. The Chrysler Building faced growing financial challenges. Maintaining such a highly decorative structure proved expensive. Ownership changed repeatedly over the decades, involving complex real estate agreements and international investors. One of the building's greatest financial complications involved the land beneath it. The site belonged to Cooper Union under a ground lease arrangement requiring escalating payments. As Manhattan real estate values skyrocketed, the economics became increasingly difficult for owners. At times, preservationists feared the building would suffer neglect or insensitive renovation. Fortunately, landmark protection helped preserve its architectural integrity. Restoration projects repaired the stainless steel crown, modernized elevators, and upgraded infrastructure while attempting to maintain the building's historic character. These renovations highlighted an ongoing tension in New York real estate. How do you preserve history while remaining commercially competitive? The Chrysler Building became both a treasured icon and a difficult business asset. In many ways, the Chrysler Building belongs to a vanished era. Modern skyscraper construction relies heavily on computer modeling, advanced safety regulations, sustainability standards, and highly specialized engineering software. A handcrafted Art Deco tower filled with custom ornamentation would be enormously expensive today. Labor costs alone would be staggering. The decorative metalwork, masonry detailing, and artistic craftsmanship that define the building are rarely economically practical in contemporary commercial development. Most modern skyscrapers prioritize efficiency. The Chrysler Building prioritized spectacle. Its creators wanted emotion, drama, identity. That difference explains why the building continues to resonate nearly a century later. Many new towers are taller, few are more beloved. The Chrysler Building is often discussed as an architectural masterpiece, but beneath the steel and marble lies a deep human story. Thousands of workers shaped the tower with their hands. Riveters hammered steel connections while suspended above the streets. Stoneworkers carved decorative details that most pedestrians never notice. Secretaries, elevator operators, engineers, draftsmen, artists, and laborers all contributed to the building's life. Even William Van Allen's story carried a tragedy. Despite designing one of the most famous skyscrapers in history, he became entangled in financial disputes and struggled professionally afterward. His greatest achievement did not guarantee lasting success. That contradiction mirrors the building itself. The Chrysler Building emerged from ambition, competition, vanity, artistry, and risk. It represented both brilliance and excess of its age. The Chrysler Building may have lost the height of race, yet it won something more enduring: affection. It reflects humanity's desire to leave marks upon the world, to build monuments against mortality, to transform steel and stone into symbols. Nearly 100 years after workers lifted its secret spire into the sky, the tower continues to shimmer like a relic from the future. They built it to be the tallest building on Earth, and it became one of the most loved structures in the world. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.